Hey guys, it's Tori Hornsby here with PSM Marketing. This is a quick video about our partnership with AudioEye to ensure that your website is ADA compliant. And we have done a lot of research on being ADA compliant. And what we have realized is that the documentation is over 6,000 pages long, and there's so much data in there. There's so many levels of ADA compliance, and so we've decided to partner with AudioEye. We've done our due diligence and our research. These guys are the best. We've also worked out a killer deal for them, which we'll talk about the pricing here at the end. Yeah, these guys, I think you're going to like what they add to the site. It definitely will protect you guys from any potential litigation. And man, everybody understands the ambulance chasing attorney world that we live in today. And it is it's painful, but it is what it is. I've got RJ Heller with me here. RJ is with AudioEye. So RJ is going to take over here, and he'll do a screen share and go through a couple of high-level details with you guys. And then at the end, we'll talk about some pricing and some next steps. Take it away, RJ.
Great. Thanks a lot, Tori. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm RJ Heller, Director of Sales here at AudioEye. I'm just going to give a quick high-level overview on what the things that we're going to solve as far as ADA compliance for you and your website, as well as our approach to the situation. And then also at the end, I'm going to give a quick demo of the toolbar and the kind of visible accessibility tools that you have on your site. So first and foremost, what are the benefits of partnering with AudioEye, and why do we need to do this? As Tori was saying initially, there is a lot of litigation that's going around the inability for people with disabilities to access websites. Quick little background on it is really this kind of stemmed back in 2016 is when I saw a lot of this happening. I've been in the industry for 7 years, and that was when law firms are suing community banks for inaccessibility, and kind of hit one area of the market, and it grew out. So from there, recent decisions made, accessibility needs to happen now. It's not exactly right now, but it's something that's continued. And as far as digital accessibility and the cost to make it, AudioEye's approach to the situation is what we're going to do is work with you at the platform level and work with you to allow you to maintain the design integrity of your website. So all the beauty that you put into it, all the partnership that you've done to have this wonderful website to be able to sell as much as possible and be able to communicate as efficiently, no longer are there going to be barriers to access for people with disabilities. Ultimately, there's not a one-time solution where you can just go in and say, hey, website's accessible today. Because websites aren't static. It's not like a newspaper. It's constantly updating and changing. So with all those updates and changes, AudioEye runs with you. So we're constantly monitoring your site. So as you make those changes, we make sure that they're always going to be compliant, whether there's changes to the platform or whether there's changes at the individual site level. It doesn't matter. We're going to take care of that for you. And then as far as legal risk, what we were talking about, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We'd like to make sure that you're doing this ahead of time. That way, it's not only reactionary for the litigation, but you can help and drive sales and drive revenue, and also just have a better experience for everybody because your website's more accessible. So driving into why digital accessibility matters. What I like to do here is kind of zoom out from the idea that people with disabilities are just people who are blind trying to access websites, or alt tags. Everyone's heard about alt tags for images. That's the thing when it comes to digital compliance, is there alt tags on your images? So from there, there's actually 480 something different standards that we test against in the WCAG standards to ensure compliance for all people. And within that, right, we're talking about blindness, obviously, we're talking about low vision and color blindness, but also within visual is video descriptions, right? So if you can't see the video that's playing, you have to be talking about what's actually going on in the video, in addition to just the sound that's coming out. And as far as sound, we talk about auditory, so deafness, hearing impairment, things like that. Naturally, closed captioning is something, a lot of things people are familiar, but now getting into things people are less familiar with, if you can talk about motor skills, right? So inability to use your limbs, or maybe an amputee, or maybe someone who doesn't possess the motor function to use a mouse and navigate that way, and it's better for them just to use the tab function or navigate through the keyboard. All those things tie into the ability to engage with the computer. And then finally, you can even get into cognitive. So people who have low literacy or English as a second language, or maybe you have ADHD where too much stuff is overwhelming, or and in a more serious case, schizophrenia, where a lot of flash can actually cause seizures. So that's not schizophrenia, but all these things together are the type of things that we're solving with AudioEye. So what we're really doing is providing the ramps and rails to the digital world. With AudioEye, what we're doing is we're providing you with a line of JavaScript that you can embed in the universal footer of the page. That's going to allow us to come in and make all the changes to your site to make sure that people with disabilities, when they're using assistive technology that they bring to your website, when they're using those tools, that you don't have any barriers in your end that's preventing those tools from access to the content. So the difference in that is generally when people think like, hey, is my website compliant? Do I have color contrast and things like that? It's bigger than that. It's allowing the tools that people bring themselves, much like someone in a wheelchair using a ramp to get into a building. Do those tools have the ability to access with your content in your website? Very quickly jump into just kind of the legality and behind it. We won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but ultimately the big takeaway is Section 508 and 504 refer to groups that receive federal funding. But likely if you're dealing with either litigation or a demand letter, it probably falls under Title III, which includes discrimination in places of public accommodation, which includes online communities and websites. The other one that kind of sits to the side is CBAA. That's directly related to videos and having closed captioning and things like that on your website. So what do you really get with the AudioEye solution? So first and foremost, you get compliance, right? So we're going to bring you into compliance with the standards of WCAG level 2.1, version 2.1 level AA, and Section 508, and both include the Section 508 refresh. And in doing that, we give you legal support. So if you do get a demand letter or something like that while working with AudioEye, we're going to respond to that with you. And help walk you through that process. You get conformance, so not just compliance, but we're going to bring you as close as possible to that standard at all times. Because we've done the work, we actually certify that for you. And with our certification, that's going to be on your site, both present within the toolbar and in your accessibility statement page, which I'll show you in a second. But all this together is an outline overview to say, hey, your site's completely usable because AudioEye is on there serving the population of your site that needs it, but also just make it ultimately easier for anybody that engages with their site, because part of universal design is if it can help some people, it's generally better for everyone. So from there, really digital accessibility, how do we approach it? We have a kind of a standard 4-step process. One of the beauty of doing this through a partnership like we are today is you don't have to embed this yourself. It's going to be done for you. But if you were to come to AudioEye Direct, generally it'd be set up to where we'd give you that line of JavaScript like we talked about, and you'd embed it in the universal footer of the page. And at that point, you have the activation of the website. So with our activation, we make your website about 30 to 40% of the way better because we're using the automatic remediations that are coded for your site that are just frankly if-then statements that say, hey, if this is written in this way, do it this way. Now it's more compliant. So you get that instantly on day one. You also get our certification. You also get access to our team if you need additional help, and you get access to that legal protection plan, which is our sustainable testing and remediation plan if you need it. So that's the kind of day one compliance we talk about. So we've talked about that 30 to 40%. Now we get into the testing and discovery. So what about the remainder of the site? So that's the kind of things we're testing by hand, testing manually for you to identify what needs to be fixed. We're testing and discovering. And then when we identify those things, now we move into the remediation, validation, optimization part of it. So remediation just means fixing. So identified what needs to be fixed. Now we go through and fix it, validate it using assistive technology, AT testers, people with disabilities we have on staff to make those changes to your site, and then optimization. And that allows us to make sure that no matter what type of assistive technology you're using, it's going to work no matter what actual system you're using. So all of it works together. No one's going to have any issues. And then finally, moving into step 4, it's our ongoing monitoring and maintenance. So compliance, certification, it's done. We're just monitoring you into the future. Any updates or changes that you make to the site, whether that's at the platform level or it's on for your site individually. We're going to make sure all of that's taken care of and completely compliant moving forward. So very quickly on the automated testing, we talked about this briefly. So this is the ability for us to move very quickly. Day one, 30 to 35% of the errors in the site are going to be fixed. Might have said 30 to 40% a second ago, but it's really varies from site to site based on the type of errors that are on there. But instantly on day one, you're far down the road. And then as far as the manual testing and remediation, that's what really makes AudioEye a complete solution. There are a lot of other solutions out there that just stop at the automated testing. Sure, it makes your website better, but if you really want to go all the way and protect yourself from litigation and have ground to stand on if you do get a demand letter, you have to go all the way and be completely compliant. And today, automation just isn't going to get you 100% of the way there. That's why we still leverage people with disabilities, AT testers that we have to go through and test your site to make sure it's completely compliant, and anything that needs to be fixed, some of those remediations need to be made by hand, and we'll do that as well. So we leverage tools for the speed to compliance, but we leverage people for the completeness of the solution. And then from here, just very quickly, like I said, because we do the work, we certify it and we can stand behind it. Vastly mitigates legal risk, meets the 2.1 success criteria, all the trusted certifications on day one, and then this accessibility toolbar. So we talked about in the beginning that people with disabilities are using their own assistive technology to access content online. In that same way, we have our own tools that we're going to put on your website that's also going to allow people to have unique ways to experience the website that's most efficient for them. So rather than going to Q&A here, I'll just burn right over and switch this, and I can show you a live website. I have Kia's website pulled up. They're a client of ours, and I believe I'm sharing my screen right now. So if you look at the site, right? So this is a live AudioEye site. It's Kia, with the exception of this call to action in the lower right-hand corner of the page. All the changes are made at the DOM level. The document object model, the last thing that loads for the page. We have all the changes delivered. So no matter what type of assistive technology someone's using, is going to have a complete unique experience as you engage with the site. You can tab through, alt tag during all the image. We've delivered all the changes to the website for you. Now, if you go into the accessibility portion of the site, you'll also see our accessibility statement. So we provide this to all of our clients. It's really your commitment to digital inclusion. The copy is slightly changed toward Kia, but it's largely the same thing we put on all sites. Goes through our accessibility certification process. If there is feedback, you have the ability to share it there. The accessibility guidelines, and also the ability to toggle the toolbar on and off. So back here, you can turn it on or off. But now that you've seen the statement, we can go through and check out the toolbar itself. So with this, for someone who's not familiar or has not experienced navigating a website using assistive technology, this is the part that you could really see the most. So if we check out the visual toolkit here, so this allows you to have things like a big cursor, right? Or maybe you need to have a reading guide. It's kind of the same of having a bookmark on your page as you read down through a book. You can change color contrast. So this is a high contrast version of the page. You have grayscale. The site's pretty grayscale already. And then you have inverted 25%, inverted 75%, all just designed to be what's the best way for someone with their unique ability to engage with the site to get the content on there. Beyond that, we have the ability to adjust text size. We talked about English second language or inability to read at a high level. If these carousels are moving too fast, we can disable animation. So in disabling animation, now you can just click through. So if it takes you time to read through this, or maybe you have a disability that prevents you from engaging directly, now you can slow it down and you can do it on your own space. And the last thing I'll show here is the font change. So with this one, this is easier for people with dyslexia. I think it's kind of cool. It has, you see letters are weighted heavier on the bottom. Turn off the disable animation. See, words are weighted heavier on the bottom, so it prevents things from getting jumbled up within the user's head as they're reading content. So I'll X out of this, I'll refresh all this, get it back. I'll show two more things very quickly. The first is certification. So this is certification for the website. Shows the site's AudioEye trusted, just like everything we walked through. These are the same 4 steps we walked through in the last slide: audio activation, testing and discovering, remediation, validation, and then AudioEye trusted remains active. So this is on every page of your site, well as having our terms and conditions down here, representations and warranties. This is our certification for you that we've done everything we can, and will continue to make sure your website's accessible. And then finally, the help desk. So if there's ever an issue that someone's having in your site and they need to reach out to either us directly or to, in this case, Kia, they have a feedback loop that's present where they can say whether or not they're using assistive technology, add the feedback in on the site, name, email, phone number, submit that. 90% of the stuff we get has nothing to do with accessibility. It's more going to be about, hey, we're Kia, and I'm trying to refinance my car, or I want to get this 2021 Sorento in black. Do you have it? Ultimately, find if people can find a place to write feedback, they're going to do it wherever, regardless of where it goes. So this also kind of acts as a feedback loop where you have access to this type of information from your clients. And the last thing about this is by having this help desk on your site, if you do get a demand letter, then, and you've also not received any prior engagement from someone requesting access to content, it kind of gives less ground to that demand letter or litigation to say, hey, we on every page of our site had a help desk that was open for you to ask us a question, and specifically around accessibility, and us to reach out and help you. If rather than go down that route, you felt it was best to not reach out at all and just serve it with a demand letter or litigation, like what was really your goal? Were you trying to access content? Was it something we could have done? Or is this a drive-by lawsuit? And in either case, we'll take care of you with our sustainable testing and remediation plan, and take care of you all the way through and give you the highest level of service because we've done the work ourselves, because it's certified. So from there, that's really overview of the toolbar, overview of what we do. Again, even without the toolbar, site's completely compliant for anyone who chooses to engage with it. And with that, that's the AudioEye solution.
RJ, thank you very much. You know, as you were speaking there, it kind of reminded me that, you know, a lot of people, especially in the power sports industry, I've heard dealers, you know, say something to the effect of, why should I go through the efforts of this when a blind person isn't going to be riding a motorcycle? This is ridiculous, right? But it's really deeper than that. It does help more than just blind people. Obviously, you mentioned the dyslexia. You mentioned a couple other different things of people that could be on ATVs, motorcycles, and then of course automobiles as well. So I definitely see value there. And at the end of the day, the biggest benefit of AudioEye is just to protect yourself from lawsuits and litigation against not being compliant with ADA standards. So that 6,000 page manual, you're covered. So I'm going to do a screen share over here, guys, and show you what does this cost and what are next steps here. The cost of it, really, this is amazing. It's $35 a month for the enterprise level. So this is going to ensure your site is ADA compliant. And the next steps are really simple. There's nothing for you to do. We're going to give a week just to be sure that everybody understands that we're adding this. And on Thursday, November 12th, we're going to begin adding AudioEye to all Firestorm websites. And the $35 investment will be passed through and added to your monthly invoice from us. And for any dealer that says, I'm not worried about this, I don't want to pay the $35, although I feel like it's a really cheap insurance policy and I highly recommend you do it. If you don't want to do it, then just send an email over to websites@psmmarketing.com. That's that, guys. If you have any questions, certainly call us up. You can call or text us at 770-692-1750, or you can email any questions into websites@psmmarketing.com as well. RJ, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us here. We appreciate it. We're excited about our partnership here with AudioEye. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.